LEGO really likes to remake Luke's land speeders. So much so that we got a full-on UCS version of it. But how about LEGO Star Wars sets that the fans actually want remakes of? Today, we will be discussing the top 10 LEGO Star Wars sets that actually deserve a remake. Keep in mind that these are my personal choices and the sets that I would like to see remakes of, but I think the majority of the community can agree with me here, even though I feel like nostalgia is clouding me just a little bit. And I'm also not considering any polybags or advent calendar builds, as they were nowhere near as impressive as the original LEGO sets. And because all of these Star Wars sets are all unique in their own individual ways, you're going to be paying a extremely hefty penny if you were to go onto the secondhand markets and try and purchase all of them now, especially sealed in box. So unless you're an absolute collector, I would not recommend you go out and buy those sets, but rather wait, and hopefully here in the future we will actually see these sets released once again. As well as these are the top 10 LEGO Star Wars sets in no particular order. I equally want to have all 10 of these being released. So with all of that being said, let's get to number 10. Starting off the list, we have the UCS Super Star Destroyer. Now, I know that we recently got, and I'm pretty sure it's still on shelves, a miniature version of this ship. However, that miniature version for like $70 doesn't do its justice to what this UCS ship does. It's literally just perfect. It's a LEGO set that is a perfect example of what the Ultimate Collector Series LEGO Star Wars line of sets should entirely look like. Like, fine, it is in micro scale still, because, I mean, if this were to be a minifigure scale ship, it would be absolutely enormous, so for that reason I do understand it being micro scale. You still have that little bit of a interior inside, which is like a small bridge that should be inside the actual ship. It's just that little amount of detail that kind of ties everything together, and it masks the illusion of this micro-scale ship actually being minifigure scale. That's what I really like about the set. It literally does everything flawlessly, and in my opinion, if LEGO were to bring back this set here onto shelves, maybe in like 2026 or something like that, I honestly don't see a lot of improvements that have to be made to it to get it back into production. Moving on the list, we have another UCS Star Wars set that was released alongside the Super Star Destroyer, and it was the UCS Imperial Shuttle. We have gotten a number of playsets of this set in the past, however, none of them really compared up to this UCS version. Back in 2010, when this Imperial Shuttle was released, it was way ahead of its time. Like, if you were to take that set as well and release it back here in 2025, you wouldn't be able to tell that that 2010 LEGO set was made in 2010. It looks so sleek, so elegant, with the studless finish to the wings. It looks like a LEGO MOC, and it doesn't even look like a LEGO set anymore, which is a very big compliment to 2010. 2010 as a year, I usually think back very fondly, not because of how well the LEGO sets were built back then, but rather for the pure nostalgia and for what the LEGO sets represented back in the day. Also quickly adding on to the Super Star Destroyer and Imperial Shuttle, both of those sets have been from the original trilogy, and LEGO really likes to make original trilogy LEGO sets, especially the UCS ones, and so because of that, it would be very much in line with what they do to soon enough give us both of these LEGO sets. Similar to how they released the X-Wing and then the TIE Interceptor, and then many years later they once again had the same combination of releasing another X-Wing and another TIE Interceptor. Hopefully the Super Star Destroyer and Imperial Shuttle will get the same type of treatment sometime here in the future. Coming up on number 8 on the list, we have the Rogue Shadow. Now, the Rogue Shadow wasn't necessarily a ship that was in the main films of Star Wars, but rather in a one-off video game, and so for that reason, the ship may not necessarily be the most iconic of which, but rather, it's just a nice looking ship, and knowing that it has a lot of potential that could be really improved upon here if they were to re-release the ship again. Because back then, when they released it originally back in 2008, it does look pretty rough to today's standards, just objectively speaking. Not to mention the fact that the original ship included a battle-damaged Darth Vader, which after that set was released, we never saw another battle-damaged Darth Vader after that. And so with the release of this new Rogue Shadow, we would see another variant of the battle-damaged Darth Vader, especially with the much more updated printing and possibly even a new mold for the battle-damaged helmet. Next up on the list we have the OG Anakin Starfighter. We only had like a Clone Wars version of the Y-Wing once, being this 2010 version of the set. We have had a number of remakes of the Y-Wing in the past, however all of them were more tailored towards the original trilogy. And we have also had one that was based on the sequel trilogy. As goes for like the Clone Wars version of it, this was the only one that we had. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be Anakin's Y-Wing Starfighter in particular. It could just be a Y-Wing Starfighter that is based off of the Clone Wars, but just a lot more updated by the building techniques and by the overall design and the way on how it is constructed to be fitting a little bit better with the newer era of LEGO. And I know we recently got the Rex's Microfighter Y-Wing, which is in the correct era of the Clone Wars to where I want the yellow Y-Wing to be from, but it was a microfighter and it was microscale, which I do hope that LEGO does one day release a full-on blue version of the Clone Wars Rex's Y-Wing as well, and then maybe from there they can take that blue version and then do a color swap and release a yellow version of that ship as well. So there is definitely potential here that LEGO can experiment with and hopefully give us what the fans want. Next up on the list we have the Republic Attack Shuttle. Another set that is very nostalgic to me, but getting past the nostalgia aspect of it, more objectively speaking, this set really has only been made once in the past before, and considering its relevancy to the Clone Wars and even up to the Bad Batch more recently even, where we had a recolor of that ship, I am surprised that LEGO has not gone ahead and made another version of this ship, like being the original Republic Attack Shuttle or the grayed out version. Even just for the reason alone that back in 2009, LEGO was using a different formula when it comes to the dark red and reddish brown LEGO plates. If you were to take something apart or accidentally drop the ship, those reddish brown plates on the ship would immediately snap. Like, they would become extremely brittle over time and they would just break very easily. And considering that the majority of the shuttle was made out of those plates, you would imagine that now that LEGO has revised the formula, that yes, they have revised it, sometime after 2009 you would have expected a re-release of that set with the improved LEGO plates. Hopefully sometime in the future we will be seeing a re-release of this LEGO set, similar to how we had the recently revealed LEGO Arc 170 that, the last one that we got was 15 years ago when that dark red was still brittle. In 6th place we have the Republic Attack Gunship. Now, this set is one that we've had like several versions of in the past, so much so that we even had a UCS version of it, and right now on shelves we have a Coruscant gunship, but for having a more minifigure scaled white version of that ship, we haven't seen that since like 2013. And especially considering how relevant it is within the Star Wars universe, such as being present in the prequel trilogy and in the Clone Wars, you would imagine that this white version of the ship would be on shelves a little bit more frequently. However, no. I know you could do a recolor of the Coruscant gunship to look like the white original version of it. However, I would just like to have a separate set with it being the white version. And so with this new re-release, LEGO would revisit that Coruscant gunship and, make the necessary improvements, such as giving it the double opening doors and making the nose look a little less stubby and more sleek looking, and giving us a much more nicer looking white version of that Republic gunship. And maybe for the minifigure selection, LEGO could revisit the original Clone Wars style of clone trooper designs and include not only the clones, but as well include a Captain Rex Phase 1, which the Phase 1 Captain Rex right now is going for some pretty expensive prices on the second-hand market, so it would be a nice re-release of that minifigure, and maybe even a Phase 1 Commander Cody. And so there's definitely a lot of opportunity that is present with this new gunship that we could hopefully see sometime in the near future. The next LEGO setup is the Republic Cruiser, and while yes, the Republic Cruiser had very little screen time in all of Star Wars really, it was just appeared in the beginning of Phantom Menace for like the first 10 minutes was it, and then it just gets blown up and that's the end of that. But I feel like where the want for this LEGO set really comes from is from the video game that LEGO made based on the film, which, The Complete Saga. It is the most nostalgic video game ever, and I feel like for that reason, it could be a very well-selling LEGO set. Like, the set on the second-hand market is very well valued, and on top of that, it's just an interesting looking ship. It's a very bright red color scheme, and what ships from the LEGO Star Wars line are as bright as this one? The only two ships that have like red accents to them would be the newly released Jedi Bod Starfighter, but as well the T-16 shuttle that was released back in 2010, I believe. The Clone Turbo Tank, or the Juggernaut, is next, with it being relevant within the Clone Wars and Episode 3 of Star Wars. This is a vehicle that we have gotten 3 times in the past, but I feel like considering, once again, this vehicle's relevancy, it makes sense to make more of this vehicle and have it on shelves a little bit more frequently than what it originally is, because all 3 versions of the Clone Turbo Tank right now are very highly valued on the second-hand market, and it's very high in demand up there. You would think that LEGO would release more of these type of LEGO sets, but they interestingly don't. And with the release of this Clone Turbo Tank, you can easily have like a lineup of 10 Phase 2 or Phase 1 clones to further expand your Grand Army of the Republic. So the potential is there, and you can easily make this a very profitable LEGO set and make it very appealing to all LEGO Star Wars fans. I just don't know why LEGO doesn't do it more often. Number 2 on the list, we have the V-19 Torrent. Another ship that is very relevant to the Clone Wars, in fact, and I feel like would go very nicely next to the UCS Venator that has been released. They made one back in 2008, they made just one, and that was it. They never again went ahead and released another one. It is long overdue for a remake, and especially, once again, considering how relevant it is to the Clone Wars, it just makes sense to release this as another ship. For one thing, I would imagine this new V-19 Torrent to have a more downscaled frame, because the original one was way too oversized for what it was supposed to be. But more than just having a downscaled frame, the wings, I would hope, would be in the more brick-built aesthetic, similar to how it has been done with the 2010 Imperial Shuttle. It really all goes back to that 2010 Imperial Shuttle, because they have really set a strong standard for what these shuttle wings could look like for any ship in the Star Wars universe in general, and if they are to do that and use that kind of a design to make a very sleek looking wing pattern, and then also complements it with like the opening wings as you turn down that central fin, and to have all of that work simultaneously as you had with the original LEGO sets, I think that would be the perfect V-19 Torrent, and it would really be something. It would probably be up there as one of my most favorite LEGO sets of all time. And with number 1 on the list, we have the Clone Walker Battle Pack. This battle pack is perfection. It is the hands down best battle pack ever. And why is it? Because it is the perfect army building LEGO set. I mean, you have Phase 1 clones, you have a mini Clone Walker to go along with it, you have the accessories for the clones, it all just works so well together. And especially for the price that it originally sold for, which now, of course, considering inflation, we're going to be looking at probably like $20 for this small little battle pack. But regardless, I mean, considering that this type of battle pack now goes for like $100 each, getting this for $20 would be a dream come true. But on top of all of that, the helmet holes back in 2009 were where they were supposed to be. Like, right now when we're seeing clone troopers, like Phase 2 clones especially, the helmet holes are way too high. LEGO claims it to be a thing that makes production a lot easier with these clones, but okay, if that's the case, so be it. But going back to this Phase 1 design, if they are able to bring back that Phase 1 helmet with that accurate helmet hole design, that is going to sell so well, and people are going to be so happy to have just Phase 1 clones. They're going to be building up fields of armies of these clone troopers, and it would work so nicely. This battle pack would be like the revival of 2009, and this would be peak LEGO Star Wars all over again. Keep on building, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.